Oh. Narayana. Please chant with me. I believe you know these mantras. Asato ma sadgamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityorma amritam gamaya. Now, I want you to think of what these mantras mean. Asato ma sadgamaya means lead me from non-existence to existence. Yes? Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya means lead me from darkness to light. And mrityorma amritam gamaya means lead me from death to deathlessness. So my question to all of you, is this possible? From non-existence can existence come? From mortality can immortality come? For anyone who's not thinking, these mantras have no power to transform us. These statements are not possible, which is why they're called mantras. Mananat trayate iti mantraha. That which reflected upon helps us to cross over. Cross over fear, cross over ignorance. But this requires us to think. These mantras are not to be taken literally, but the implied meaning. And so, our course, though called an Atma Bodha course, this course is a course in how to think. And Puja Swami Tejamananda shared this so often. More important than what to think is how to think. Reviewing what we've studied so far. In Shloka 2, we studied how to start a fire. And Acharya Shankara says you need a fire to cook. But to get to that fire, you also need to collect wood. Yes? You need to have some sort of fuel, as in matches or gasoline. You need to have a vessel. So undoubtedly, fire is required to cook, but to get to that fire requires a lot of efforts also, a lot of dravya or materials also. And so taking this subjectively, yes, knowledge is immediate, knowledge is direct, but to understand that knowledge requires infinite preparation. It's like in Hanuman Chalisa where we say, we're about to describe Hanumanji, so I'm going to use the dust of the Guru's feet to clean my mind, the mirror of my mind. Because if the mirror of my mind is clean, I can reflect fully. Please understand that Shloka 2 is not saying there's no purpose to service or to charity or to waking up early. Shloka 2 is saying that there is means to get to the means, which is knowledge. Everyone's flowing with me? Because we can easily take Shloka 2 and misinterpret it and say only knowledge. So now I know this Shloka, now I know the meaning of it. But if you don't practice this, then we really didn't get the Shloka. In Shloka 3, Acharya Shankara is talking about how knowledge is directly against ignorance. And when ignorance is no longer there, the knowledge comes to benefit us. You have to know to benefit. And I had mentioned this, I don't know if it's in this course or the Bhagavad Gita course. Raja Janaka, a great Raja and a great Rishi too. It would be fine to call him Rishi Janaka. This is Mother Sita's father. He is a king, but he dreams that he is a pauper, that he's a poor man. And the next morning when he wakes up, he's so startled, so rattled by his experience that he goes to Rishi Ashtavakra and tells Rishi Ashtavakra about what he experienced. He said, I don't know right now if I'm a poor man or if I'm a rich man. And what does Rishi Ashtavakra say? You're neither. You are more than the poor man and the rich man. And if you take this experience more literally, when you wake up from a dream, don't you immediately become the waker? Or you wake up from a dream and you have to shower before you become the waker. You have to have a Pop-Tart before you finally become the waker. Isn't it that the dreamer and waker are mutually exclusive? In the same way that ignorance and knowledge are mutually exclusive. You cannot say that I understand the Vedanta and still cry. Those are antonyms to each other. Crying unnecessarily, okay? Let me put some conditioning to that. To get to that level of knowledge, we have to be most conscious with how we act, with how we speak, with how we think. Because by being conscious, by being more aware in how we act and speak and think, that greater awareness will push out ignorance. And you keep pushing and pushing and pushing ignorance out till finally, when the Sadguru comes and says, Tattvamasi, that you are infinite, you don't respond by looking back. Are you talking to that person over there? You respond by saying, Aham Brahmasmi, I am infinite. We continue, and each of these shlokas is a message of hope. Each of these shlokas is showing us that freedom is possible. And why I would say this is because the examples given are so simple that if this can work in such a simple way, if I can start to interpret this to my subjective life, it will also work. I am on shloka 4. Please chant after me. Parichinna iva jnanat, parichinna iva jnanat, tannashe sati kevalaha, swayam prakashate hyatma, megha payem shuman iva, megha payem shuman iva. Together, parichinna iva jnanat, tannashe sati kevalaha, swayam prakashate hyatma, megha payem shuman iva. Acharya Shankara shares, parichinna iva ajnanat. Parichinna means finite, smallness, broken, as if iva ajnanat, because of ignorance. He is sharing here that ignorance makes us feel like we are small. Going into this more. If you take infinity spatially, all pervasiveness, that means whatever entity we're referring to in this space is here and there. If something is spatially all pervasive, it means it's here and there. And to say that what is here went there shows that it's not all pervasive, that it's not infinite. So that movement, and wherever there's movement, shows that there's no infinity. Yes? Okay. Now, if you take this time-wise, that which is time-wise infinite means this is present in the past, present, and future. But if it's now but not later, then that means there's no infinity at a time level. So movement and change both imply there's no infinity. Movement in space, change in time. So, Acharya Shankara is saying that ignorance makes us feel like we are finite. So my question to all of you is, right now I feel movement and change. I'm moving, I'm changing. either I am not infinite. That's a possibility. Either I am not infinite, or the other possibility is that I am ignorant. If I'm feeling movement and change, either I'm not infinite, or I am ignorant of my infinitude. So here Acharya Shankara is saying that you are ignorant, that you are infinite, and since you're not feeling it, you are ignorant. Tannashe sati kevalaha. This is the second quarter. When this ignorance is nasha, sati nashaha, that it is no longer there, kevalaha, what remains is that infinitude, that oneness. What this looks like, making this more real. Which has an ending? Infinitude or ignorance? Which ends? Infinitude or ignorance? We've been studying Vedanta for 10 years. Our ignorance is still there. Are you sure that ignorance ends? Ignorance has no beginning, but does have an end. Infinitude has no beginning and has no end. Putting it in a very relative way, I've often shared with all of you, an event has a beginning and has an end. This Jnana Yajna had a beginning and has an end. But a study group, it also has a beginning, but it has no end. So the evolution of a Jnana Yajna is a study group, to be part of the movement, not just the event. Infinitude does not end. And in Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan Krishna is trying to tell Prince Arjuna about this. He says to Prince Arjuna, earth and water and fire and air, the four lower elements, cannot touch what? Space. Hurricane Maria, I believe, is going through the Caribbean and possibly Florida, correct? This hurricane will move earth and water and fire and air, but the space over the Caribbean and Florida is not going to be moved. That space is going to be that space, because space is more subtle than these lower elements. Now, if you apply this to your nature, which is infinite, can space touch your nature? Can you space out your nature or space in your nature? No. So infinitude doesn't end. So everything that applies to infinity also applies to me. Ignorance does have an end. Sheila recently bought a French press. How many of you have a French press for coffee? So for a long time, she used to make coffee. And now that Vyasa is born, I make coffee. And before Vyasa was born, Sheila taught me in a very systematic way how to use a French press. Boil water, put coffee grinds, pour the water into the coffee grinds, etc., etc., etc. So you see, I was ignorant about using a French press. Now I'm less ignorant about using a French press. So ignorance does end, but that infinitude doesn't. So Acharya Shankara says, when ignorance ends, kevalaha, the infinitude will not. And how will this infinitude be? Swayam prakashate hyatma. He Atma. Yourself, your nature will shine naturally. This will not have to be created. This will be re-revealed, rediscovered. Making this more clear, what is the Atma? Atma in English is I. You know when I say I, when I say I, that I-ness is Atma. And that I-ness is not my cheek. That I-ness is not my desire. That I-ness is existence awareness. Sat, Chit. I shows that existence. And whatever I'm doing shows that awareness. So whenever you say I, we tend to say I Vivek, I eat, I go. That I is not the body or the mind or the intellect or the ego. That I is existence awareness. As an example, if you turned off all the lights in the room you're in the house, in the university, in the ashram, you turn all the lights off. Don't get up and waste time and do it. And I ask you, are you there? Do you have to say, wait, I have to turn the lights on to know if I'm there? Do you have to do that? If I ask you, are you there? You will say, yes, I am here. Because that existence awareness is not affected by physical darkness. Is this watch here? Certainly I need my eyes to see that. But that existence awareness is independent. Kevalaha. Energy is not created nor destroyed. It just changes names and forms. Energy is here. The substratum for energy is existence or Sat. Swayam Prakasha, self-shining, self-illumining. The word pratyaksha means prati aksha, that which is in front of my eyes. That which is experienced is known as pratyaksha. So a rainbow, pratyaksha. Me drinking water, pratyaksha. But the Atma is not pratyaksha. I can't see the Atma. I cannot think the Atma. It is aparoksha. It is beyond perception. It is that which allows perception. And I'm sharing all of this because your nature doesn't have to be created. Your nature cannot be created. It is. The example, the poetry in this shloka, Megha means cloud, apaye, when that cloud passes, anshuman, that which has rays, the sun, like. When the clouds move away from the sun, that sun re-shines, isn't it? When the clouds were in front of the sun, was the sun shining? Yes. When the clouds are removed, is the sun shining? Yes. Those clouds, that ignorance, that finitude, cannot touch that which is infinite. So recently we had a solar eclipse. How many of you looked at the solar eclipse without protective lenses? I think Donald Trump looked at this without protective lenses. Right? He's that powerful. He doesn't even need protective lenses to see the solar eclipse. But many of you did see it with protective lenses. So from the perspective of the sun, was there an eclipse? From our perspective on Earth in the northeast or the eastern part of North America, there was an eclipse. But from the perspective of the sun, there was no eclipse. From the sun's perspective, there's no earth or moon. There's just the sun. Acharya Shankara is asking us here to unlearn. Unlearn who you think you are. And now, naturally, we're going to ask, how long will it take to unlearn? I could be making this up, but I don't think I am making this up. Hariprasad Chaurasya was a very strong, one of the best flautists, flute players. And he wanted to learn from Ravi Shankar's wife, who he felt was better than him, more knowledgeable. And he approached her again and again and again saying, please teach me. And she said, no, you're already so accomplished. But he was steady, he was sincere. So she said, fine, but I'll only teach you with your weak hand. And so imagine how much he had to unlearn to become the best again in a weak physical setting. But he did it, no? And that's why whenever we're stressed out, we put Hariprasad Chaurasya on YouTube, correct? Rag Shivanjali. So I'm sharing is we have to at least try in a little way to start to unlearn, and don't ask how long. You know who asked how long? Prince Arjuna. Prince Arjuna said, it's hot in Kurukshetra. There's a lot of weapons around me. You know, even going through security, we want to get out of security as fast as possible through an airport. So when is this going to be learned, and when will I feel this? And Bhagavan says, Achirena. What does Achirena mean? I love the English translation. The English translation is ear long. So the next time someone says, when will the bus come? Ear long. Year-long means depending on your sincerity. It's not a worldly timeline. Okay? So more poetry has come at us, simple poetry. We move on to Shloka 5. And to introduce this shloka, Puja Swami Chinmayananda, and he's come to this ashram every year, every time when he came to North America. I actually invited myself to Chinmay Mission Flint. Other centers invite me to their centers, fine. I self-invite myself. I've been here for 10 years straight. And I always remember when I walk into this ashram that Swami Chinmayananda shared that we're all suffering from a spiritual hallucination. The hallucination is that we're not spiritual, that we're not the spirit. Remember that hallucination as we study this shloka. Ajnana kalusham jivam. Ajnana kalusham jivam. Jnana bhyasad vinirmalam. Jnana bhyasad vinirmalam. Kritva jnanam swayam nashyet. Kritva jnanam swayam nashyet. Jalam katakarenuvat. Jalam katakarenuvat. That's a fun word, kataka. I'll tell you what that is. But let's chant together. Ajnana kalusham jivam. Jnana bhyasad vinirmalam. Kritva jnanam swayam nashyet. Jalam katakarenuvat. Ajnana, which means ignorance. Kalusham jivam. Ajnana or ignorance is a stain on a personality, on us. This ajnana, this stain, is more well understood as vasana. Vasana means fragrance, but when compared to the spirit, vasana actually means stench, isn't it? I had Bhiksha at 6 o'clock today. There was curry, there was watermelon and cucumber smoothie, there was dahi, and so on and so forth. Then I ate with my hands, and then I went to the bathroom and I used soft soap. In ashrams they use soft soap, in people's homes they use Bath and Body Works. Winter crisp, autumn sharpness. What does autumn sunlight smell like? And now if I smell my hands, I can still smell that curry. So when people say your house smells like curry, it does. Our house does, my hands do. That's vasana. That what I ate has left an impression on my hand. How I act leaves an impression on how I speak. How I speak leaves an impression on how I think. How I think leaves an impression on my desires. And those desires become vasanas. In a secular way, we would just call this habits. And the more you engage a vasana, the more you have to engage that vasana. The more you indulge a habit, the more you have to indulge that habit. Acharya Shankara is saying our vasanas are a stain on us, which is why we're called Jiva and not Jagadishwara. Jagadishwara means God. But I have this spiritual hallucination, right? That I'm a human, I'm a man, I'm a Canadian, and I keep adding more stains on me. Though being a Canadian is more cleanliness than stain. Remember the movie Inception? And the main character's name is Dominic Cobb, I believe. And what's his wife's name? Mal, no? Mal in Sanskrit becomes Mala, in Hindi becomes Mal. And the more he thought about her, the more she traveled with him in the waking state, dream state, all the way to limbo. And finally he stopped thinking about her, and what happened to Mal? She was never there in the first place. But you have to stop engaging that. Atma Bodha, 1500 years ago. Inception, 2010. The connection is possible. Next line, jnana bhyasad. By practicing jnana, vinirmalam, one becomes, without that vasana, without that stain or that ignorance. The word abhyasa sounds very much like another word we use in Vedanta. Not abhyasa, but adhyasa. Adhyasa means superimposition. It means hallucination. Right now, we are engaged in ajnana adhyasa. We are feeling that I am finite, and this makes me extrovert. I'm trying to change the combination and permutation of finitude to try to make myself finite. Infinite, I'm sorry. Mathematically, is that possible? Can you manipulate finite numbers to reach an infinite number? But why do we do it with the way we live then? Ajnana. Ajnana adhyasa. I believe I'm finite. Acharya Shankara is saying jnana, not adhyasa, he's saying abhyasa. That we should start to practice feeling big. Big here means content. It means disciplined. It means productive. Jnana abhyasa will change us from being extrovert to being introvert. Extrovert, I'm looking to the finite for completion. Introvert, I'm looking to the infinite for completion. If we do this, it won't just be mala. There will not be ignorance. There will be nirmala. There will be no ignorance. Vinirmala, vishesha nirmala. There will be zero ignorance. There will be zero incompleteness. One will be happy once and for all. Like a Disney movie. And they lived happily ever after. The problem with Disney movies is they always close the screen then. We actually don't know if they lived happily ever after. You can say that. But here Acharya Shankara is confirming you will live happily ever after. Kritva jnanam swayam nashyet. Having brought knowledge into one's life, swayam nashyet, naturally that ignorance will be purged. Because jnana and ajnana are mutually exclusive. They cannot be together. Sharing this differently, once you know that you are the source of joy, you cannot unknow that. My problem with the movie The Matrix, I can't remember if I told you this already, is when Cypher is in the Matrix and he's meeting with the agents and he's drinking that wine and eating that steak. And they're telling him, he says, I know this wine and steak is not real, but I still want to be in all of this. That was a flaw in the Matrix. Because once you leave Maya, the Matrix, once they're in Zion, Swarga, then you can't go back to that which is false. And that's what Acharya Shankara is saying. Once there's jnana, ajnana can't be there. When Bhagavan Shiva opened his eyes, who got burned? Kama. Kama can't be where Shiva is. And Acharya Shankara is saying here, this is not a ritual. This is not external. No amount of offering flowers is going to purge ignorance. We need to be ready for knowledge. That is the once and for all. And finally, in the last quarter, the example is given. Jalam kataka renuvat. Back in the day in Bharat, even now in the villages of India, during the rainy season, and we see this in America also, during the rainy season, what color does the water become? Brownish. Now we have actual industries that clean up water and run it through our taps. But they don't have that in villages in Bharat or back in the day. So they used kataka renu, which means the dust. I want to make sure I'm getting the powder, yes. The dust or the powder of a kataka. It's a certain type of nut. And they would sprinkle that in that muddy water, and that dust would cling to that muddy water, and all of that dust and mud would go to the bottom. And then they would take the water on the top, the clean water, boil it and use it. Now you're thinking, what are you talking about? How many of you have a pool? a pool, swimming pool. We had a pool. When there's algae in your pool and you want that algae to go away, what do you put in the pool? Flock, no? You put that flock in there, F-L-O-C. And you pour that flock in there and it attaches itself to the algae and the algae sinks to the bottom. And then you put on that pool pump, that automatic cleaner, and it picks everything up. But that cleaner can't clean that algae if it's in the water, correct? It has to be dense for it to go to the bottom. That's what Acharya Shankara is saying, is that everything related to knowledge, Atma Bodha, Acharya Shankara, even Bhagwan, all of this will join ignorance and all of it will go away when one is enlightened, when one knows Sat, Chit, Ananda. When I know existence, awareness, joy, what is there to do? Just, please get it right, just be. Final thought for this class. Shravana, Mananam, and Nididhyasana, which is listening, reflecting, and contemplating, all have a specific purpose. The purpose of Shravana, of listening, is to have the clarity that the scriptures are going to guide me to freedom. Shravana. The purpose of Mananam is that the scriptures that are going to guide me to freedom, this message is real. You remove doubts. And Nididhyasana, the scriptures that are going to guide me to freedom, and the message is real, and the message is personal. This message is not for you. This message is not to become a better person. This message is for freedom. This is about me. As we continue to study Atma Bodha, please do not make this an objective science. Please do not make this a science of development only for prosperity in the world. This is the message that is real and personal when it comes to being free. Oh.